I'd like to welcome you to this presentation of Black Men Rock, 10 things every black man must do to live an extraordinary life. And so if you've clicked over from our website, I want to say congratulations for taking the step, because if you're watching this video, that tells me that you're committed to living an extraordinary life. So if you're committed to that, then what I want to let you know is that I'm committed to providing you with some tools that can support you in doing that. And so I want to begin the presentation by reading the inscription from the back of the book. And it says, "Contrary to negative media generated stereotypes, I personally believe that black men are poised to experience unprecedented levels of success in America today. Never have the doors of opportunity been opened wider for us to follow our passions and create the life of our dreams. For those of us who are willing to make the investment in our own personal growth and development, we will be rewarded with great relationships, dynamic health, financial abundance, spiritual connection, a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment, and the opportunity to give back to our communities and change the world for the better. What has been missing in the past is a resource guide to support black men in this endeavor, and therefore I have created Black Men Rock as that resource to support them in creating extraordinary lives." And so this is a resource designed specifically to empower you to live an extraordinary life. And so some of you who are watching this may not know who Coach Michael Taylor is, so let me just kind of give you a little background. First of all, I am an entrepreneur. I am the president and CEO of Creation Publishing Group, which is a company that develops programs and products designed specifically to empower men to live extraordinary lives. I also happen to be an author of 3 books. My first book was called Brothers Are You Listening? A Success Guide for the New Millennium, followed by A New Conversation with Men, and my current book is Black Men Rock. I am also a motivational speaker who is absolutely passionate about sharing the knowledge and wisdom I've gained over the last 20 years to support men in living extraordinary lives. And I host a radio and TV show titled A New Conversation with Men, which is based on the book that I just mentioned. And so that's a little background about what I do, but to go a little deeper and explain how I got to this point where I'm now coaching you on living an extraordinary life, I have to go back a few years to tell you how I got involved. You see, some 20 years ago, I was living the so-called American dream. I had the house, the wife, the 2.5 kids, and by society standards, I was successful. But within about a 6-year time frame, I watched my American dream turn into the American nightmare as I went through a divorce, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, and basically lost everything. And so during the darkest period of my life, I made a choice. And that choice was I was going to pick myself back up and I was going to create an extraordinary life for myself. And so I went on this amazing journey of transformation, I like to call it. And during this journey, I learned a lot about who Michael Taylor really was. And what I wanted to do was to simply share the things I learned about myself with other men, because I knew obviously there had to be a lot of men who had gone through the same thing that I had gone through. And when I first began this process, I couldn't find resources to help me pull through the challenges that I was dealing with. So I made a commitment that I was going to create a resource for men. And that's how I got involved with this. I started writing, I started speaking, and ultimately I found my life purpose, which is to be a life coach and to empower men to live extraordinary lives. So that's just a little background about me. I also want to add that I've been happily married for the last 11 and a half years or so, and I'm just truly blessed to have a relationship or a marriage that really works for me, that's just rewarding and fulfilling, and I'm just really proud of that relationship with my wife, Bedra. I am a proud father of 3 grown children, my oldest son being 32 years old. I have a son that's 29, about to be 30, and I have a daughter who just turned 27. So my family is very important to me. I just want to share that with you, just to give you a little information about Coach Michael Taylor. And so we're going to be talking about the 10 things every black man must do to live an extraordinary life, or as my book says, 10 keys to living an extraordinary life. So before we can engage in that conversation, first of all, I think we have to define what an extraordinary life really is. So I want you to ask yourself, what would an extraordinary life look like for you? What would you be doing? What would you have in your life? You see, everyone has to define extraordinary for themselves. And if you're watching this video and you're committed to living an extraordinary life, that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to define or describe for yourself what an extraordinary life would look like. Because over the last 20 years, here's what I can say, is I believe that there are 5 components that no matter what you choose to do with your life, if you have these 5 things, I believe your life can be extraordinary. So let me share those 5 things with you. First of all, to live an extraordinary life, I believe it's important that you have inner peace and joy. You see, inner peace is one of those things that you can't really describe in words, but it's a feeling. It's a knowing in your heart and soul that you're doing what makes you happy. You have a sense of a spiritual connection to something greater than yourself. And you're not all stressed out about all the negativity and pessimism you see in the society. And so I believe an important aspect of living an extraordinary life would be to have this inner peace. And I think that's where you start. And that's when you'll know you're living an extraordinary life, because you will feel this inner peace and joy. The next component, I believe, of living an extraordinary life is great relationships. Without question, relationships can be challenging. But at the same time, they should be rewarding. And I believe that in order to live an extraordinary life, you've got to have great relationships. The next thing is dynamic health. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the presentation, but I think it's important that we take care of ourselves physically if we want to live an extraordinary life. And then, of course, we have to have a rewarding career. And a rewarding career means you do something that you're passionate about. You do something that really lights you up. And at the same time, whatever you're doing, it's providing adequate income so that you can do the things that you really enjoy. And last but not least, I believe it's important that you be in service. And what I mean by being in service is you're simply sharing who you are with other people to somehow make the world a little better. And so that could be something as simple as going to a homeless shelter or volunteering at a kitchen to feed the homeless or something. But there's an important part of our being, I believe, that we want to give back somehow. And I believe being in service, that's a part of living an extraordinary life. So no matter what your extraordinary life looks like, I believe they should contain these 5 components. So as you're thinking about your extraordinary life, did you think about these things? This whole conversation is about contemplation, so I want you to really challenge yourself to think about the things that I'm going to share, and just remember that these 5 things should always be included if you're choosing to live an extraordinary life. So, are you ready for the 10 keys? Are you ready to learn the 10 things that can support you in living an extraordinary life? Well, let's begin. The first key to living an extraordinary life is to know thyself. And it is my belief that it is probably the most difficult thing that we'll ever do. And the reason it's so difficult is because we live in a society and a culture that constantly tells us that we should always look outside of ourselves for fulfillment. You know, we're constantly bombarded with external images like cars and money and women and things and stuff. But to live an extraordinary life, you must be willing to go within to know thyself. There's a wonderful saying that I absolutely love, and it says, if you don't go within, you will always go without. Meaning, you must be willing to go within your own mind and heart to figure out who and what you are. And when you do that, then everything else will sort of fall into place. But the first thing you have to be willing to do is to know thyself. That's number one. The second thing is you must develop a spiritual connection that nurtures your soul. Now, when I say a spiritual connection, I'm not advocating that you join any organized religion. I'm suggesting to you that it's important that you develop intimacy and connection to something greater than yourself. And you get to choose what that is. That's your responsibility to find that thing that nurtures your soul. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. For some, it may be religion. For others, it may be a deep meditation practice. There's lots of ways to do that, but it is important that you find something that truly nurtures your soul. And I will say this, if you currently practice a religion, my invitation to you is to challenge what you may believe about religion. Because I believe that most people accept the religion that they were brought up in without really questioning why they believe that. But if you want to develop a spiritual connection that nurtures your soul, you're going to have to ask yourself some deeper questions. And once you come to your own understanding and your own conclusions about the infinite, about the divine, then I believe you will create a spiritual connection that nurtures your soul. So choose wisely when you do that. Number 3, to live an extraordinary life, you must develop a positive mental attitude. So what exactly is attitude? How would you define attitude? Well, let me give you Michael Taylor's definition of attitude. You see, attitude is simply the compilation and expression of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Let me say that again. Your attitude is simply the compilation and expression of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So if you have negative thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, guess what? You'll have a negative attitude. If you have positive thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, therefore you will have a positive attitude. If you're truly committed to living an extraordinary life, you must have a positive mental attitude. Because a positive mental attitude will definitely make going through life a heck of a lot easier. So make the commitment to developing a positive mental attitude. And number 4, you must make relationships top priority. Now, from a male perspective, we have been conditioned to believe that our responsibility is to provide and protect. Since the beginning of time, those have been our 2 primary roles: provide and protect. But I'd like to introduce you to something that's even more important, and that's to learn how to connect. And that's a piece that's been missing for us as men. And so in order to make relationships top priority, we must learn how to connect. And in order to connect, we got to get out of our heads and into our hearts and understand the importance that our emotions play in our lives. And this is a challenge for a lot of men, because as men, we've been conditioned that we aren't supposed to feel. Well, the truth is, you cannot be relational if you're unwilling to be emotional. And so in order to make relationships top priority, we must get our emotions involved. And we must make sure that we're making relationships top priority in our lives. And number 5, You must develop a positive support system. You see, it is my belief that the three most difficult words for any man to say is, I need help, followed by, I don't know. As men, we've been conditioned to believe that we're supposed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and a lot of us have a lot of problems asking for and seeking support. But it's important that you put together a positive support system to help you deal with the multiplicity of challenges that we deal with on a daily basis. There's no shame in needing others. We all need somebody else sometimes. So make sure that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals that's going to empower you to be the best you possible. And when I say a positive support system, I mean that literally. You want to hang around people that are positive, not negative. That's number 5. Number 6, do not buy into the negative media. From a black male perspective, it's easy to see why so many of our young men resort to negative behavior. Because what they see on television is usually pretty negative about us. But it is our responsibility to turn off that television. Because if we know that the media is biased and is always going to show the negative aspects of us, why are we watching it? Turn it off. Know that the media's job is to showcase everything that's wrong with our society. From a black male perspective, once again, they're going to show the minority of us doing negative things. The fact remains is the overwhelming majority of us are not doing negative things. So it is our responsibility to not buy into the negative media because their opinion is biased. And their opinion, in most cases, is always inaccurate. So, remember what Public Enemy said? Don't believe the hype. So don't believe the hype of the negative media. Black men rock. And there's nothing that's going to keep us from living our dreams. Number 7. You know, there's an amazing paradox in our society. And the paradox is this. For the most part, black men epitomize physical fitness. When you look at most of the major sports, what do you see? Black men who excel in physical fitness. But the paradox is, although we may epitomize physical fitness, black men generally leads the nation in most health-related illnesses and death. And I say that's something that we must change. And the change has to come from within. And we must make the commitment to take care of our physical bodies. That means minimizing alcohol use. That means staying away from illegal drugs. That means exercise. That means being careful and watching all the fried foods that we eat. That means making a simple commitment to understanding your body, going to the doctor on a regular basis, and taking care of your physical fitness. That's number 7. Number 8, manage your finances. You know, the most important thing to realize here is that it's not as important how much you make as how much you spend. And too many times we are spending money on things that we probably could use investing in something. So we have to refocus and understand that buying things and stuff is not going to benefit our financial health. And we need to become financially healthy, meaning we need to begin investing in things that are going to pay us back, things that's going to make us money, not things that we're just going to show off to our friends. We have to commit to managing our finances, understanding the importance of your credit score, credit history, making sure that you're saving money, putting money aside, having that 6 months of expenses in the bank before we go out and splurge on things that we know we don't need, but we just want. So it's important that if you're going to live an extraordinary life, that you learn how to manage your finances. And a simple thing to do, simple but not easy, a simple thing to do is to create a budget for yourself. Make sure that you take the time, and here's what I suggest, is for 1 month, write down every penny you spend. I know most people won't do this, but if you'll do this, I can assure you it will be enlightening. But if you will take for 1 month, just get a notepad and write down every penny you spend, and you will be amazed at where your money goes. I guarantee you, it'll surprise you. And then once you have the list, look at the things that you can eliminate, and then instead of spending that money, save some money. Think about that. But it's important that you manage your finances. And number 9, it is absolutely imperative that we embrace technology. There's a guy named Alvin Toffler, and he said this: the functional illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. You see, your ability to earn is directly linked to your ability and willingness to learn. Right now, we live in an information technology age. And if you want to stay ahead of the game, it's important that you embrace technology. It's important that you are willing to learn new things on a regular basis. Because technology and information evens, or shall I say, levels the playing field of success in society today. For those of us who are willing to embrace technology, there are no longer any barriers to what we can accomplish. So if you are committed to living an extraordinary life, make sure that you embrace technology and use it to live an extraordinary life. And last but not least, make a commitment to be in service to your community in some way. And there's lots of ways you can do that. You can volunteer your time. You can go to an elementary school and read to the kids. You can go to a homeless shelter and help feed the homeless. I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do, but the key here is to make sure that you're giving back in some way. You see, you may have heard of karma. Karma is basically what you put out comes back to you. Well, when you're in service to your community and you're doing something to help others, rest assured that that'll come back to you in some way, in a positive way. So make a commitment to be in service to your community, because, it's been said that no one can do everything, but if everybody did something, everything would get done. So make a commitment to doing something that's going to improve your community and improve the world around you. And when you do that, you're being in service to your community. So there you have them, the 10 keys that if you will follow them, I can assure you they will support you in living an extraordinary life. And if you've been intrigued by this video and you want to go a little deeper, my invitation is for you to pick up a copy of Black Men Rock, 10 Keys to Empower Black Men to Live Extraordinary Lives. And I go a lot deeper into explaining the 10 keys that I just talked about. So my hope is that you will make a commitment to yourself to live an extraordinary life, because you have it within you to do so. The question right now is, what are you willing to do? It's all up to you. So I want to close with a simple statement. And that statement is this: Black men rock. And don't buy into the negative media stereotypes about our demise, because black men are doing quite well. And I believe the best is yet to come.